I'm Liz Faublis, and this is Currents. Remembering those who made the ultimate sacrifice.
And if anyone has to give their lives in defense of our country, we recognize that great sacrifice. And that's what Memorial Day is about.
And a church effort to help returning vets. Plus, holding on to memories of lost loved ones.
It's a new cultural norm, and it's a new way in which our nation is grieving.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. It's an annual tradition for the church, celebrated on a day when we thank veterans who served in the military to protect our freedoms and remember those who paid the ultimate price. At the diocese's 6 cemeteries, Memorial Day masses were celebrated, including one at Mount St. Mary in Flushing, Queens. It was a big turnout for the solemn mass, which was celebrated by Bishop Nicholas DeMarcio.
This is all dead. I gotta clean this. My daughter and I are gonna come, and she's going to make a nice garden here. We'll put some geraniums. I miss you, Arthur. I love you very much. You're still in my heart.
Today we're here to celebrate Memorial Day. Each Memorial Day we have masses in all the Catholic cemeteries. Again, Memorial Day reminds us of the war dead, but also we pray for all the deceased on this day. We come to this cemetery to visit the graves of our beloved dead, because we know someday we will see them again, because we believe there is something more to this life after we die. In the resurrection, we will all be united again.
We maintain 4 large cemeteries. All told, there's about 1,000 acres. As a Catholic cemetery, we believe these are sacred places, and what we do is a ministry, not merely a service. We don't have particular military sections, but we recognize, the military service, in memorialization. We certainly are losing a lot of the older, dedicated servicemen and women. But by that token, we still see very many. We see honor guards come in with the funerals as well, and they will do both the honor guard service as well as us doing the final committal service.
Hopefully, all war is a war that wishes to restore peace. We don't exalt war. We don't praise war. It's unfortunately a necessary evil at times in order to bring peace when we can't negotiate something. Peace is what war is about. And if anyone has to give their lives in defense of our country, we recognize that great sacrifice. And that's what Memorial Day is about, to remember the sacrifices of those who were willing to give their lives to defend others.
There are times that the evil is such, and we've experienced it, that it's the only recourse. We would not be the country we are without the tremendous sacrifice of the U.S. Armed Forces.
I always have to put the flag out for the servicemen that passed away. I came today because my uncle and my nephew was buried right here. And then he passed away in the last 18 months, both of them. So we come every year, but this year was very important.
And it's always a beautiful Mass, and it means a lot, to be here for your loved ones that have passed, and especially on Memorial Day.
And I came today for my father, in respect for my father who was in World War II. Our boys are giving their lives to save America and keep America free.
You are faithful to your loved ones, and for that, you should thank yourselves.
Well, unfortunately, for some people, it's just another 3-day holiday, and they don't remember what it's about. Unless we're people of faith, we recognize that we do have a responsibility to pray for the dead, to visit their graves. It's just a good reminder to us that all of us someday will return to dust, but that the soul continues to live for all eternity. And so we all live happily forever with Christ, whom we believe truly rose from the dead. Amen. As he died to make us holy, let us live to make all free. Our God is marching on.
Grand Archbishop for the Military Services, Timothy Broglio, says it is important to remember the sacrifices of those who have gone before us. Broglio told the National Catholic Register that it is also an enormous responsibility to carry out military duty while maintaining a Christian family life. He says we ask for God's grace to enable our military personnel to do just that. Stay tuned. There's more Currents ahead. Reaction from the Holy See to the VatiLeaks scandal. We'll have that and much more after the break. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Liz Faublas. Pope Benedict was reportedly shocked and saddened by the arrest of his butler, who was found to be in illegal possession of documents related to the so-called VatiLeaks scandal. National Catholic Register reports the documents, along with equipment that would be used to reproduce them, were discovered in Paolo Gabrielli's apartment. The papers, along with many others, were published earlier this year in the book His Holiness, The Secret Papers of Benedict XVI. A former confessor of Gabrielli says it is hard to believe the butler is a suspect, calling Gabrielli a man in love with the church and devoted to the Pope. Gabrielli has agreed to cooperate with Vatican investigators. He's met with his wife and his lawyers. It's the latest effort to get some answers in the case of a 15-year-old girl who disappeared nearly 30 years ago. Several hundred people marched in St. Peter's Square on Sunday, calling on the Vatican to investigate the case of Emanuela Orlandi, who was last seen in Vatican City in July of 1983. Orlandi's brother led the march. The Vatican recently gave investigators permission to open the tomb of a mob boss who was interred in a Roman basilica. That came 7 years after an anonymous call to a television station claiming answers to Orlandi's disappearance would be found in that tomb. Orlandi was the daughter of a Vatican bank employee. Pope Benedict is donating more than $100,000 to help earthquake victims in northern Italy. The money will be distributed among dioceses affected by the magnitude 6 earthquake that struck on May 20th, which resulted in 7 deaths. Meanwhile, just over a week later, a second quake has struck the same region, killing 15 more people and injuring around 200. The quake caused further damage to buildings already hard hit by the original tremor. Among the buildings affected, this basilica, which suffered a crack in its dome. Well, a surprise announcement from Pope Benedict on Sunday, and Rome Reports has the details.
The thousands of pilgrims who went to St. Peter's Square to pray the Regina Coeli with the Pope did not expect that he would announce one of the most important events of his pontificate.
Sono lieto di annunciare che il prossimo 7 ottobre, all'inizio dell'Assemblea ordinaria del Sinodo dei Vescovi, proclamerò San Giovanni d'Avila e Santa Hildegarde di Bingen, dottori della Chiesa Universale.
The title of Doctor of the Church is given to saints whose theological teaching is valid for all time. Pope Paul VI named only 2 doctors of the Church, St. Teresa of Avila and St. Catherine of Siena. John Paul II named one, St. Therese of Lisieux, in 1997. When Benedict XVI names the next 2 in October, there will be a total of 35 doctors of the Church.
Elsewhere, big news for a couple of American dioceses. The Pope has selected Bishop Richard Malone to be the new Bishop of Buffalo. Malone has been serving as the Bishop of the Diocese of Portland, which comprises the entire state of Maine, since March of 2004. He was previously the chairman of the U.S. Bishops' Committee on Evangelization and Catechesis. Malone will be installed in Buffalo on August 10th. The Vatican also announced the appointment today of Samuel Aquila as the new Archbishop of Denver. Aquila fills some pretty big shoes, succeeding Archbishop Charles Chaput, one of the most high-profile bishops in the U.S. Chaput was installed last year as the new Archbishop of Philadelphia. Aquila has been the Bishop of Fargo since March 2002. His appointment to Denver is a homecoming. Aquila was originally ordained for the Denver Archdiocese in 1976. He will be installed as bishop there on July 18th. And honors for an Irish priest from a Muslim institute. Father Charles Burrows will receive the annual Marif Award from the Marif Institute for Culture and Humanity. Father Burrows is being honored for his close to 40 years of social work in Central Java, Indonesia. Among his accomplishments, the establishment of 25 schools, which have taught nearly 75,000 students. 4 Catholic activists in Vietnam have been sentenced to prison terms after being found guilty of propaganda against the state. Asia News reports the 4 men received sentences of between 18 and 42 months. They had all volunteered as part of a pro-life movement. Protesters at their hearing accused authorities of arbitrarily applying the law. The families of the 4 men said they would appeal, saying the punishment does not fit the alleged crime. And back in this country, a new Rasmussen poll shows a majority of Americans doubt that Catholic institutions would shut down rather than comply with the controversial contraception mandate. 51% of those surveyed said it is unlikely Catholic organizations would close rather than pay for insurance that includes contraception, sterilization, and abortion-inducing drugs. Now, 16% believe the likelihood a Catholic organization would shutter its doors is, quote, very likely, while 17% think it would be not likely at all. Last week, 43 dioceses and Catholic institutions announced a lawsuit opposing that mandate. And the New Jersey man who admitted last week to killing a 6-year-old boy in Manhattan 33 years ago had reportedly revealed his alleged crime to a church group. Pedro Hernandez allegedly admitted to the crime in the 1980s to a group that met regularly at St. Anthony of Padua Catholic Church in Camden, New Jersey. According to the Wall Street Journal, Hernandez's sister says other family members who were at the meeting told her about the admission. She says she went to the Camden police with the information. It is unclear what they did with it. In Canada, police removed what may have been a pipe bomb from a fire at a Catholic church in Ontario. The Toronto Star reports a police explosives unit removed the device from St. Jerome's Church in Brompton. A spokeswoman said police would destroy the device and would later determine if it was in fact a bomb. Well, Brooklyn has 2, the Archdiocese of New York has 1, and now the Diocese of Rockville Centre has its first basilica. Bishop William Murphy celebrated the Mass of inauguration for Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary in Southampton on Sunday. Pope Benedict announced the designation of the church as a minor basilica in December of last year. Now, a basilica is permitted to display the Vatican City coat of arms in its facade and the cross keys of St. Peter on its furnishings and liturgical appointments. Congratulations to Sacred Hearts Church. And stay tuned, there's more currents ahead. Coming up, the church gives returning soldiers a place to turn to. Yesterday, most of us celebrated what is arguably one of the most solemn holidays in the history of our nation, Memorial Day. And while it was a great opportunity to spend a long weekend with friends and family, welcoming the unofficial start of summer with barbecues, beach parties, and picnics, we cannot lose sight of the reason the day was established. Memorial Day commemorates fallen soldiers of wars past and present, honors them for making the ultimate sacrifice so that we can live safely and enjoy freedoms many countries do not have, and it's certainly a solemn day. That said, it is also important to pay homage to our brave veterans, especially the disabled, for the sacrifices they have made. Some have lost limbs, their eyesight, their hearing. They return home scarred from war in need of support, jobs, encouragement, and understanding from their families, friends, and for many from the church. Well, that's where the National Catholic Partnership on Disability comes in. Earlier, I spoke with the organization's executive director, Janice Benton, and also with Dr. Nancy Thompson, its programs and diocesan relations director. We discussed what is being done to reacclimate our disabled veterans into society and the church, and learned there is still more work ahead. Nancy, can you tell us about the role of the National Catholic Partnership on Disability? Now, I understand you have produced about 16 ministry webinars on Catholics with disabilities thus far.
We have. The role of the National Catholic Partnership on Disability, which was established in 1982 by the U.S. bishops, is to support implementation of the 1978 pastoral on people with disabilities. We do have many different tools that we use, one of them being webinars to help support diocesan leaders in their training of parish staff and of parish staff in supporting and training their local volunteers. Our 16 webinars range in topics from education, religious education, mental health issues, and others. So 16 topics are available, which lays out a pretty nice foundation for people who are looking at disability ministry.
And you mentioned Pope John XXIII's Pacem in Terris, which stresses the innate dignity of all men and women, and we use the word inalienable in the Declaration of Independence to remind us that the principles on which our democracy is founded guarantees certain rights to all Americans regardless of their circumstances. Is this the foundation, Janice, that the partnership is based on?
Absolutely. And it's the dignity of every human person and the recognition of that dignity. And just by virtue of baptism and being created in the image of God, each person has dignity and then rights, as you mentioned. And our office and our ministry and those who are doing this ministry are living up to that recognition of the dignity of every person and their right to be part of and be nourished in their faith and be important participating parts of any parish community.
And how do you ensure that not only the support of but the meaningful participation of people with disabilities in church and society in our parishes is actually something that is being done and being done effectively? Has that been a challenge?
A challenge, yes, but we're blessed with an amazing network of people all around the country who care about this. Family members, people on diocesan staff, parish people, as Nancy mentioned. Many people with a range of gifts, teachers, special ed teachers, therapists who are working to make sure that people are able to be formed in their faith, building committees who are working on access to actual parish facilities, that type of thing. So it is a challenge, but when the spirit is there, when the pastor or the principal is leading the parish, when family members feel confident to speak what needs might be needed in a parish and can bring it to the parish council, and when people have that spirit of welcome and recognition that everybody belongs, then it can happen, and we see wonderful things happening around the country.
And Nancy, I want to ask you, on your website, you say at times that we've responded to the needs of some of our people with disabilities only after circumstances or public opinion have compelled us to do so. In what way?
Unfortunately, sometimes we're just not aware of the depth of the need that is present, or an issue will become present. For example, the issue of autism, as you know, or probably aware, in the last year or so, has become a very a strong national issue. And so then we look at that issue and think, okay, what has the church's response been to people with autism and their families? And then we are responding to that through our National Task Force on Autism, research that has been done, and products that are being created to support ministry by diocesan and parish people and by families for their children with autism, to help them prepare for attendance at Mass, which can be a very severe issue for some children with autism, and for preparation for the sacraments of First Reconciliation, Eucharist, and Confirmation.
And Janice, one last question. Fundamentally, what do individuals with disabilities really need from an organization like National Catholic Partnership and from their ministry, especially since you say in your mission statement that acts of charity and or justice are just not enough?
I would say a recognition of that dignity and of their own giftedness and their call to serve. People want to be able to, and veterans, as people with any disability want to be a part of the community, and they want to be able to serve that community. So.
All right, Janice Benton and Nancy Thompson, thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed our discussion, and God bless and so much luck with the work that you do.
Thank you very much.
Thank
it was
you.
a pleasure.
Very welcome. And stay tuned, there's more Currents after the break. When we return, family, friends, and strangers remember those who gave their lives for their country. And finally tonight, for military families, many of them so young, who have to mourn the loss of a loved one, it's difficult to express the grief they endure. These families realize that their husbands, wives, sisters, brothers, sons, and daughters won't be there for the special occasions, birthdays, babies' first steps, graduations, and even the birth of a child. But many still want to share these moments with relatives who died in combat. And in one part of Arlington National Cemetery, they're doing just that. Reporter Chris Van Cleve has more on that.
It's a real personal way of grieving, I guess.
There is a somber silence that hangs over Section 60 of Arlington National Cemetery. It is here that the loss is most fresh, the emotions still raw. The rows of marble here bear the names of many of the lives lost in Iraq and Afghanistan. But this is not just a place for the fallen, it's a memorial for the living. Sacred ground personalized to the hero who lies below. A headstone covered in lipstick kisses, another in hearts, many covered in photos. And in row after row, memories left behind. A bronze star showing one man's bravery. A card. Happy anniversary. Marrying you was one of the best things I did. I love you. This had never really happened before in the military. They'd never had a place like Section 60 where people were leaving things, mementos behind. And the military decided they just couldn't throw those away.
It's a new cultural norm, and it's a new way in which our nation is grieving, and it has to be captured in some way. We'll take the image of McCants.
And that's exactly what Rod Gaynor and Steve Carney from the Army's Center for Military History do every week.
Appears to be a little angel that says, "I miss you."
Collecting, photographing,
how are you doing with tags,
and cataloging mementos left at the graves that have a real tangible link to the fallen service member.
It was left here specifically for that individual, for Sergeant Chen, and that's why we did it.
Like this book, handmade by a little girl, written to a soldier, a father, who didn't make it home to play with her again.
These can be heartrending.
I love you so much.
Stuff from the families is always really tough, report cards.
Or this drawing, reading simply, "Happy birthday, Daddy."
I've had ultrasound photographs of young ones, and Daddy, can you believe I'm 5? It gets to you.
Its primary purpose is to be here at the gravesite for right now, but in the long term, it then becomes more than just something that sits here.
With the blessings of virtually every family in Section 60, the items collected every week are kept at an archive center in Virginia. The hope is one day they will be part of an exhibit that helps tell the stories of parents gone before they met their children, of heroes who sacrificed so others could live on, and of the families who carried on but never forgot.
And that report from Chris Van Cleve. Well, that is all for tonight. Coming up on Wednesday, it's been 6 months since the church first began using a new English translation of the Mass. We return to the parish we visited on day 1 to find out how people there are handling it. We'll have that and much more on Wednesday. Until then, head over to our website, currentsny.net, to see reports from our show. You can also follow us on Twitter and get the latest news over on our Facebook page. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for watching and have a good night.